Rocky might be one of the most inspiring films ever made, and most of that is thanks to the ever so memorable training sequence within the film. It captivates the viewer in such a way that I believe that this sequence is the reason the film is so loved and memorable. Not to say the film itself isn't great, quite the opposite actually. Everything leading up to this training montage elevates the scene as a whole. Playing this scene to someone who's not seen the entire film will enjoy the scene for sure, but won't get the emotional punch everyone else gets, and that alone speaks volumes. This tiny montage can get everyone's attention with or without seeing the actual film. It stands alone wonderfully. Within the scene there are some nice tracking shots, close-ups, static shots, and tilts. Quite a lot of them actually. But what matters here is the build-up. The viewer understands the struggle Rocky's going through to prepare for this fight, win the love of Adrian, get in a better financial state, and prove he means something to the world. Understanding all of this, it adds a great deal to this scene. Almost in a sense that we want him to train harder because of all that's going on for Rocky up until this moment. Okay, we've got the build-up, but what else? What about the actual scene? Well, we are first shown Rocky running towards the camera, then away from it. Over to the right of the screen you can see some sunlight, but only for a moment. The camera pans to the left not to show the sun, but now we see large amounts of smoke out far in the distance. The juxtaposition between the sun and the smoke works so well in this scene, showing the sun shining slightly through the train to show that Rocky has a glimmer of hope to win this fight, then panning over the large amounts of smoke, almost to give the viewer a reality check, telling us to get real. What type of chance does Rocky really have? The next scene shows Rocky running through the city. For those who don't know, this was shot guerrilla style. To put it short, it means they didn't have any permits to shoot here. They just went and shot there. Because of this, the people you see in the back aren't looking at Rocky, rather they're looking at the cameras. However, you don't realize this. We assume it's Rocky they're looking at, but they're actually looking at the cameras in confusion as to why they're filming some guy in sweats. This worked perfectly in the film's favor. The expression on people's faces are what they should be feeling towards Rocky. Who is this guy? Why is he running through the streets? What is he doing? This was done probably to save money, but little did they know it was one of the most effective ways to shoot this scene. Once the scene ends, we cut to Rocky still running, only in a different location this time. I really like how Rocky's placed to the right of the frame, while all the trees and scenery are placed to the left. Everything's so wonderfully balanced in the frame. Really completes the entirety of the shot. No wasted space here. I think it's now time to mention how great not only the score is in general for this film, but the timing used for this scene. These two cuts are done in tune with the song. They may seem minor, but it really adds a flow to the entirety of the scene. In this next scene, we see Rocky hitting the speed bag. Camera placed right in front of Rocky, but the speed bag in between Rocky and the camera. We see Rocky as he moves his head left and right, and when the speed bag reaches the peak of each side. Why is this shot so effective? Well, the fact that we can see Rocky's face helps, but the placement of the camera is the winner here. The speed bag is what's hindering our vision of Rocky. You almost want to move your head left and right just to get a better viewing of him. Rocky hitting the speed bag is the only thing that's making it easier for the viewer to see him. The more he hits, the more we see of him. The more we see of him, the more he trains because he's hitting the speed bag more often. And with all the build-up I talked about at the start of the video, the audience is given even more incentive to want to see Rocky train harder. Also notice his eyes. They're completely locked on the speed bag. Nothing else is on his mind but that speed bag. I just really like that touch. And lastly, the specific lens plays a major factor here. We don't see anything behind Rocky, nothing else matters right now. We should only be focusing on him and the speed bag. We'll follow our many tilts. We get a view up at Rocky after being hit in the abs here, the camera moves up and down while he's doing sit-ups, and the camera moves up and down similarly again while he's doing push-ups. I take note of this movement when a character finds out new information and we're waiting to see his reaction. But here the camera moves along with Rocky, well except for the first tilt where we see Rocky's expression. I also noticed we don't lose sight of Rocky. We're constantly with him throughout these camera movements and we don't cut away from him a whole lot. Now for the famous running scene where he runs across the road with the boat in the background. And honestly, I don't have much to say here. I like how the boat in the back shows how much faster Rocky's running, from the boat going across the screen slowly to ramping up the speed as Rocky runs faster across the road. But other than that, I can't really say much about it. I just think it looks really cool. Finally, we see Rocky running up the famous steps. For a brief moment, he isn't in the frame, but the camera tilts up to show Rocky far away from the camera. The closer Rocky runs to the top, the closer he gets to us. Once he reaches the top, he throws his arms upwards with that famous pose that has been engraved in cinema all these years later. And this frame right here I believe in particular is special. I think directors nowadays would have made the shot symmetrical, having Rocky directly in the middle of the statue in the distance. But having Rocky off to the side, letting the audience actually see the statue is a wonderful shot. Here's where I'm reminded of the speed bag again. The speed bag blocked our view of Rocky, almost to an irritating extent, but there was a reason behind that particular shot, and I understand what the direction was for it. But imagine Rocky now being the speed bag, blocking our view of the beautiful landscape of Philadelphia. It would ruin this otherwise great shot. Cut to a low angle of Rocky up at the steps, proving to us that he's finally ready to take on Apollo Creed. He jumps up and down in excitement. I like to reference this montage a lot when it comes to discussing brilliant scenes in film. It's probably one of the more inexpensive scenes to film, but one of the most effective for sure. Thanks for watching.